Right now, though, I do want to talk about AIG and Hank Greenberg. Former chairman and CEO Greenberg is paying $15 million to settle a lawsuit filed today by government regulators. For more on why the SEC sued Mr. Greenberg and really the settlement, let's bring in Jesse Westbrook. He joins us from our bureau in Washington. So, Jesse, talk to me about the latest on why Greenberg was being sued and the settlement as well.
Well, he's basically being sued for accounting shenanigans that were aimed at appeasing stock analysts and keeping AIG's share price high. They didn't have a huge economic implication, but they were changing numbers that were very important to stock analysts. And by all accounts, we've heard this over and over again, Greenberg was obsessed with AIG's stock price, something he thought about constantly. And that was the goal here, according to the SEC.
All right. Are you surprised that Greenberg is settling, or no, maybe it makes sense here?
Well, it is a bit of a surprise. I have interviewed Greenberg in the past, going back 3 or 4 years, and he was always very defiant about these allegations, said he would fight them, said regulators were turning foot faults into murder charges. So it is a bit of a surprise that he's settling, and we haven't heard from him yet. So the SEC has announced the case, but we have not heard from Greenberg yet.
Are we expecting to hear from him soon?
Well, I think he will have to say something. He's certainly expected to say something. I suspect he's settling because sort of the dynamic about AIG has changed. These were accounting shenanigans, but now AIG has sort of become a poster child of all that went wrong leading up to the financial crisis. So it makes sense for him to put this behind him because as a former CEO of a company that's received a lot of bailouts, I don't think there's a lot of sympathy for a Greenberg at this point.
All right, so Greenberg's settling. We're also hearing that AIG's former CFO could have a similar situation on his hands. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, he is the former CFO. He's going to pay $1.5 million. That's Howard Smith. He did say that he was settling because the thought of a drawn-out legal process was not appealing to him. It was his inclination initially to litigate, but as he became to realize that this was going to go on and on, he didn't want to go down that path. Maybe there was a bit of that in Greenberg's thinking.
You know, let me ask you, Jesse, more broadly speaking, I mean, kind of what's up with all these headlines that seem to come out about something that was done wrong at a firm, and then minutes later there's news of a settlement. I'm thinking about GE recently settled something with the SEC. You've got Bank of America and now Hank Greenberg. Kind of what's going on more broadly here?
Well, the SEC resolves most of its cases through settlements. It doesn't have the resources to take on, big hotshot CEOs with deep pockets who can hire the best lawyers. So that's typically how it goes. They're pursuing a settlement. They come up with a number that they think the other side can agree to and will withdraw any desire to litigate it themselves. So that's pretty much how the SEC always deals with these matters. We don't always know how they come up with these numbers, but they do some sort of calculation. The company pays or the individual pays, and that's how they typically like to resolve these matters. All right,
but are we seeing more cases in your view, do you feel like, and more settlements?
Well, it does seem like these cases are moving through the pipeline at the SEC faster, for sure, and they're bigger companies, bigger names. The SEC took a lot of flack last year for missing Madoff, et cetera. Getting these sorts of headlines is very important to the agency's image control.
And I should point out, Jesse, it looks like we're just getting some headlines crossing from Hank Greenberg. This is apparently in an emailed statement, and he says that he personally never engaged in any fraud. He says the vast majority of AIG restatement unnecessary, and he said he's pleased the SEC won't charge him with any fraud. So this is just coming across. Bloomberg News is learning this. Jesse, you're hearing these headlines. Any thoughts here?
It sounds like what he's basically said in the past, which begs the question, why is he settling? He's always said these restatements were unnecessary. He's always said that regulators shouldn't have been bringing these allegations. So it still sort of leaves unresolved the question of why he's settling now.
Yeah. All right. To be continued. Hey, Jesse, thank you so much. Bloomberg News' Jesse Westbrook joining us from the nation's capital.